Well, this is A Course in Miracles. It's a mind training system that was channeled back in the 60s. And it's possibly the most radical teaching that's ever come through, actually. And as I said earlier, it tells us what we're doing in our mind and why we're doing it and how to undo it. And it consists of 3 main sections. The first, about half of it, is called the text, which describes the ego thought system, the thought system that we're living by most of the time, its complexity and how to undo it. And the second third of it is the lessons. And these lessons are 365 lessons, that's 1 a day for a year, that are designed to systematically unwind your mind, quite literally. And then the last section is called the Manual for Teachers. And it says we're all teachers, actually. But it's, well, I won't go into the detail of it right now. So that's the course. I see my job as giving a kind of a précis of it, an overview of what it's saying. Because at first, there's, I don't know how many, a couple of thousand pages in it. I'm not sure how many pages, but there's a lot. And it's
1400.
1400, okay. And it seems very complex. And as you work with it over many years, you start to see that it's actually very simple, but it's our mind that's complex. But at the beginning, you can't see that. So, as I say, I see my job as showing you the simplicity of it, and then handing the book over to you metaphorically for you to self-study it at your pace. I'll just read a couple of the introduction to the lessons and introduction to the text. Because in a way this introduction actually says all of it. It says this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. And what that means is that the content of it, not the form, but the content of it is required. Basically, we have to undo what we're doing. That is required. And that's really what it's teaching us. Only the time you take it is voluntary. So you can take as long as you like over this.
Just a minute. What is required?
Oh, necessary.
No.
No.
Okay.
This course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love. You think, okay, I come on a course to find inner peace and love, and we're not being taught about love. Because it says, for that is far beyond what can be taught. So even all of these 1400 pages doesn't teach anything about love. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is our natural inheritance. So this is our work, this is our job, is to seek out and find every barrier that we have placed between ourselves and the love that's already in us, already in our minds. So our job is to explore these barriers. Many of them are very hidden. That's why we need a manual to tell us what our barriers are, because we don't know. And we have a reason for not knowing. The opposite of love is fear. Somewhere in the Course it says that we have only 2 emotions, love and fear. But what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. And what that means is love is everything, and there is no opposite to that. The Course can be summed up very simply in this two lines. Nothing real can be threatened, which means love cannot be threatened. We can block it, and we have very successfully blocked our love, but we have never threatened it. We cannot destroy it. And nothing unreal exists. So you could say all our blocks actually don't exist. We just made them up. Herein lies the peace of God. Then a little bit about the introduction to the lessons. I won't read all of it, it's a bit long, but a couple of paragraphs. The theoretical foundation, such as the text provides, that's the first part, is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. So we have to do some intellectual study first to understand what's going on, right? So that the lessons become meaningful. Yet it is doing the exercises that will make the goal of the course possible. And the goal, of course, is inner peace. And I love this one, next sentence. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. Someone asked me the other day on the rebirthing evening, oh, can't I just keep rebirthing and not come on your course? And if I had thought of this one sentence, I might have persuaded them to come. You know, we can release our energy blocks. We can bring our hidden blocks up to the surface, and believe me, most of them are unconscious. But without the mind training, without being able to remove the mind blocks, we will never find inner peace. So just releasing the energies makes you feel more light in your body, but it won't give you peace. You need both.
What is the both?
Releasing the feelings
Mm-hmm.
and the mind training. Yeah. And rebirthing is one form of releasing feelings. The purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. And then these next few sentences really apply to the whole teaching. Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem quite startling. And the reason for that is it's basically the opposite of the thinking of the world. You know, the thinking of the world is attack, defense, me or you. And the principles in here are totally opposite to these. And it says that this does not matter. You are merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do so. So in each lesson there's an instruction of what to do for that particular day. We don't have to understand it or know why we're doing it. We just have to trust. You are not asked to judge these ideas. You are asked only to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and show you that they're true. So as we start practicing these actually very simple principles, you will start to see their value more and more as you start to see that they work. Remember only this: you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept them, and you need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist, and boy, you will. Because the ego mind does not want to hear this stuff. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy, their usefulness. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas, and whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required. So we have a teacher, the author of this book, who's giving us very simple instructions of how to train the mind. And as we use them, we'll start to see that they work. Incidentally, Jesus is the author of this book. I don't know if you're aware of that. The mind of Jesus. the one that we know of that was here 2,000 years ago, has channeled this work. And he's also very, he knows that we have a lot of resistance to this work. He knows that we won't do everything that he asks us to do. Some time ago I was reading a little article about how to give a good talk. And there's a number of ways of doing it, and one of them is to give those that you're speaking to a startling sentence or fact. And this startling fact that I'm going to give you is, A Course in Miracles tells us we are mindless creatures. What? We are mindless creatures. So what does that mean? I'd like you to close your eyes and picture a scene in your life, perhaps that wasn't very comfortable. It could be a recent scene, it could be even in your childhood, where you're upset in some way. And try and visualize what was going on in your mind at the time. Was your mind spinning? Making comparisons, maybe? Making judgments of the other people involved? Maybe analyzing either yourself or the other, seeing it as good or bad, seeing the flipping of love and hate, the worldly love. So my question is this the voice that we're listening to most of the time? This voice that compares and judges and analyzes?
Yes.
Sometimes feeling love, sometimes feeling hate. Was that a yes? This is what the Course in Miracles calls mindlessness. It sounds like a paradox because there's a lot of thinking going on. But that's actually what it calls mindless. And this is the voice that we listen to. And I say it's a voice because it's a collective script. We all have these thoughts that we access from time to time. And you'll notice that you access them more in the company of certain people than with others. Sometimes you feel more peaceful with some people and less peaceful with others. So rather than this being our thoughts, this is like a collective thought system that we listen to. This is the first major thing that the Course in Miracles is telling us. That it's a voice that we're listening to in our minds. And it's what the Course calls the ego voice. Because it's a voice of separation. Like when you're making judgments, you're separating yourself from the other. When you're making comparisons, you're making yourself different from the other, better or worse. When you're analyzing, when you see something as good or bad, you're making differences, and therefore in some way you're separating from the other. So this is what the Course calls the ego voice, the voice of separation. But my main question is, what or who is it that's listening to this voice? Up until now, and most of psychology and most of the psychological trainings in the world have been working with this ego voice, trying to make it feel better, trying to understand it, trying to analyze it. Not really realizing that it was the voice of separation.
But what if you feel peace when you have understand it.
Well, when you understand something, you feel a temporary peace. That is true, but it's not real peace. We'll look at that more deeply. So if we're choosing or listening to a voice, what is it that's listening? And it's that part of the mind that we have to get back to and practice getting back to. Now we're becoming mindful rather than mindless. So, I've called it the mind, and as Hella and Karen said, also the dreamer, or the witness. It's all the same. It's that part of the mind that's choosing this voice of separation. You could say it's the you that the Course in Miracles is addressing. Course in Miracles isn't addressing the ego voice, it's addressing the one who's choosing the ego voice. But we didn't know that we had someone choosing it, because most of the time we're just spinning. So the very big step really is to get back to the watcher, the decider, the one that's choosing this.
That witness or dreamer, what is that a part of?
It's a part of the mind.
The part of the mind.
So far it
So
looks
it's not
like
us.
it
It's not
actually
you. It's not your higher self.
it is your higher self.
Yeah.
It's that part that's choosing this. And at the moment it looks like we've got two parts of the mind. It's not really two parts, it's just a way of describing what's going on. But the important thing to get is that we are choosing this voice of separation. Right? So maybe just close your eyes again and remember that scene that you were looking at a minute ago. And as best you can, stand above the battlefield and witness yourself choosing these spinning thoughts. Just try it. Okay. Now here comes the good bit. Because the Course in Miracles says that there's another voice that we can listen to. That we do sometimes listen to, that we're not aware that we're listening to it. But to know that there is another voice, and we can practice learning to listen to this other voice. In fact, that's really what this whole mind training is about. Is first of all spotting that we're choosing the ego voice and being willing to hear the other voice. And the other voice really is your higher self or spirit. You could call it the wrong mind and the right mind, for example. In this voice, this other voice, where spirit abides, is our love, our sense of oneness, and our sense of our higher self. And this is where our peace is. And really the whole journey is realizing that we've been stuck in this, we have blocked this off with all our judgments. In fact, we've even blocked this off with all our judgments, and we stay spinning just in this one. So our job is to get back to the decision-making witness mind and choose away from this so that we can hear this. That's actually the forgiveness process, but I'll go into it more deeply tomorrow. A lovely quote from the Course: we must return to the point in our minds where the error was made. And the error was actually made up here in the decision-making part, and then we forgot that we chose the ego voice. So we must return to the ego, to the decision maker, and choose again. That's really what the Course is telling us. And the miracle, like why is it called A Course in Miracles? The miracle is the shift from the wrong mind to the right mind. And you'll know when you've made that shift, because you'll suddenly feel a sense of peace, love, calmness, a sense I've made the right decision or whatever.